Okay. So, so we had 3 tables, right? That's when we worked on. We said one customer, right? One customer, many reservations. And each reservation, only one customer. Said one bike, many reservations, and each reservation, one bike, right? This was the practice we were working. Okay. So what do we have? We have one-to-many relationship here, one-to-many relationship here. Okay. That is totally fine with database design. There is no issue there. But then we said, okay, now the assumption is changed, or like the needs have changed. The need of that business is changing, and they decided that we want to let people to make, like, in every reservation they can reserve multiple bikes. So again, so what they want to do, up to now, they would allow a customer to reserve a bike, one bike in every reservation, one bike. Now they want to let users to choose. They could like rent or reserve multiple bikes in one reservation. Okay. So what is going to change here? Is there anything here that is going to change? It's still the same customer can make like a reservation. How about here? Each bike can be linked to many reservations. That's still the same thing. But now, each reservation is linked to how many bikes? How many bikes? Is it one bike is still? No, it said, okay, people should be able to make, like, rent multiple bikes in one reservation. So each reservation could be linked to many bikes now. Many bikes. Each reservation, many bikes. In the same reservation, you can rent multiple bikes. So we don't have that one anymore. Now it's a many-to-many relationship. It's a many-to-many relationship. Okay. So many-to-many relationship. Now, so there are multiple like ideas you can come up with to how to address this. One of those ideas is this. Okay, I'm going to like add a few columns to the reservation table to allow people to like rent multiple bikes in one reservation. So in this case, in the same reservation, right? Every record in the reservation table is one unique reservation, So in that reservation, I'm reserving this bike B201 and also B202 in the same reservation. So I'm reserving 2 bikes now. So that's one method to kind of like address that issue. But the issue here, now we have multiple other issues here. First, we are going to have a ton of like many orders that only like the customer is reserving only one bike. That means we're going to have so many empty cells. The table will be full of empty like cells. And the other issue is going to be that, okay, I created bike ID 1, bike ID 2, bike ID 3. That means you can only rent maximum 3 bikes in one order. Maximum 3 bikes. Who said that? Like there was no conversation about a maximum 3. They just said we want to allow people to rent multiple bikes, but there was no conversation about specifics. So this solution has so many like issues that we say, okay, no, we cannot take this, and we want a better solution, more like a solution that can like doesn't have this issues. So what do we do with that, with this case? So we said there is a common approach that we can use here. Okay. It requires taking multiple steps, and we have to take those steps one at a time, and it can be applied in any scenario when we have a many-to-many relationship. Okay, a few steps. So what are those steps? We have to create a new table we have to remove the link between the tables that we had before, and then add the keys to the third table, and then assign a primary key. These are the steps, but we want to work on them just one at a time, okay? So here, in this case, I have a one-to-many relationship. Is there any issue here? No. So in this case, I'm not going to change anything in this part. I have to focus on here, because this is where I have many-to-many relationships. So the relationship between bytes and reservations. First step, create a third table. First step is to create a third table. So I'm going to do that. Okay. I'm going to add a third table here. What should I call it? I don't know. Let's put it aside. That's one thing you can write beside later. As we know that there is a third table here. Okay, third table. So first step. Okay. Second step. I should remove or get rid of this link. The link between the bytes and reservation. That's the second step. How do I get rid of that link? What is that link and how can I get rid of it? How do we link two tables to each other? We talked about foreign keys and primary keys instead. When you take a primary key of a table and add it to another table, that's how you create a link. That's how you create a link between two tables. So what is that link? The link is that foreign key here, the byte ID. There is a byte ID here in the reservation table. There's a foreign key which connects reservation to bytes. Getting rid of or removing that link means that you have to remove that column from the table, from the reservation table. If you do that, that means you cut that connection. So let's say we remove the byte ID from here. No longer we have that link. Okay, we don't have that link anymore. So we don't have that link either. No many-to-many relationship. So these are now unlinked table. There is no relationship between them. Next step. The next step is to look at these two tables. Each one of them have a primary. What is the primary key of this table? Byte ID. This is the primary key here for this table. Reservation is reservation ID. The primary key. Okay. Do you agree? These are the primary keys of these two tables, right? Yes, yes, yes. Great. So I'm going to make a copy of them and add them to the third table. Meaning that I'm going to add byte ID here. Okay, and also reservation ID. What are these here? What do we call them? Call them foreign keys now, right? If a primary key of another table is added to a table, it becomes a foreign key. We call it a foreign key. So each one of them now here are foreign keys. It's a foreign key, it's a foreign key. Byte ID is a primary key in the bytes table. Here it becomes a foreign key. Reservation ID, primary key, it's a foreign key. Yes? That makes sense? So we take a few steps. We remove the direct link. We added a new table. We copied this or added the primary keys of each one of them to the third table. Once you added that primary key to the third table as a foreign key, what is the other way to explain it? Now you've connected them. Now you've linked that. Now you link reservation to this third table, and now you linked bytes table to that table. You created a link with the third table. So instead of having a direct link between bytes and reservation, now they both are connected to this third table. Okay. So now that I have a few fields here, columns here, I can kind of like think about what I want to name that table. What is that? Each reservation and a bike ID. What we call it? These are items in the reservation, right? Bikes in the reservation. So reservation items. I'm going to call that reservation items. So I will call this table reservation item. You agree with that? Right? You have a reservation, you have the reservation, and then with that reservation, you have a bike ID. You have a bike ID. That means that this is the item for that reservation. Okay. Now let's try to again read that relationship. Always say read the relationship. Be able to make sure that you correctly created the like that connection. So one reservation. Okay, this was one reservation. How many items? Many items. One reservation, the same reservation ID, but could be linked, like we could have multiple records with different bike IDs. So many items. Each item is linked to how many reservations? How many like this one is going to show you the reservation ID. How many, like let's say the reservation ID is 101. How many reservations I will find in the reservation table with that ID? Only one. Only one. So that guarantees that now we have a one-to-many relationship. The same way on the other side. One bike, many items, many reservation items. Okay? Many reservation items. Each item, each record in that table will have one bike ID. And with that ID, we will only find one bike in the bike table. So now we have one-to-many, and also one-to-many. So now we are done with this design. We solved that many-to-many relationship. Now we have customers that can place reservations for multiple bikes. Okay, relational database. That's the thing about relational database. These are entities, things around us that we can build like these conceptual views of them and their relationships between them, and then like record data about them. Everything kind of like can be described in some way. Customers place a reservation. Each reservation can include multiple items. Items, like each item, like linked to one bike. Okay. If you read that and that makes sense, that's it. It has to make sense. It makes sense some way. Let's look at the like this data and see like actually if you see it here. Okay, I have an example here. Okay, you see, I have a third table reservation item. Let's choose one of the reservations. This is the reservation ID 2001. How many items do I have with that order for that order in the items table? I see that I have two. Okay, I have two items, and each one of them has a unique bike ID. In the same order, you cannot like order the same one twice. You're ordering the quantities different. If I had two records here with the same reservation ID and bike ID, you were just duplicating it. But the thing is, you're just choosing the quantity. So if you want that, that's what we have here. You say, I only like from this, in this reservation, from this bike, I want one. I want two, I want 10. That's the quantity. In the same reservation, we also reserved another bike and we specified the quantity. Now let's look at from the reservation items view to each one of these tables. Let's look at the first record, okay? How many bikes in the bike table exist with that bike ID? How many bikes exist in the bike table with that ID? There should be only one, right? Because it's the foreign key, and foreign key in the bike table is the primary key, and it guarantees that there's always one bike with that ID. One bike. There's only one bike that has that ID. So one-to-many relationship. One bike, many many items, reservation items, but each item only linked to one bike. The same way here. How many reservations exist? Okay, I have this record. How many reservations exist with that reservation ID in the reservation table? Only one. Okay, so that's how we created like a design that allows people to rent multiple bikes, but also we don't have the issue of having a many-to-many relationship between two data entities. Question. Okay. You might be thinking about, okay, every time we create a table, we have to think about what is the primary key of that table. What is the field that uniquely identifies every record of that table every time. But so far, we haven't talked about what is the primary key for reservation items. That's the next thing we want to review. Okay. So up to now, these are the steps we took. Create a third table. Remove the direct relationship between the two data entities that have a many-to-many relationship. Link them to the third table. How do we link them? Add the primary keys of each one of them to the third table. Now it becomes a foreign key. And then if you need to add more like columns to the third table, you can add that too. Okay. So with that, now let's talk about what is the primary key. How do we specify a primary key for like a joint table, associative table, like this third table that addresses many-to-many relationships? Okay. So there are two options. One option is that, like whatever we've done so far, every time we create a table, we added like a new column, like customer ID, order ID, reservation ID that uniquely identifies every record in that table, and then we assign it as a primary key. In this case, for the items table, I will add a new field and I call it like items, item ID, and I will call this primary key. Okay, item ID. So add a new column to that table and I call it item ID, and it's the primary key. Assign it as a primary key. That way I will uniquely identify the records in that table. That's one option. There is another option that is mostly used in this type of tables, the associative tables, which is called compound key. What is a compound key? Before we get to like compound key, let's think about this. Okay, let's look at this row in this table. Okay, this row, and also this one. Okay, we have the same reservation, but what is different about them is the bike ID, quantity, and other fields, but the same order. In the same order, you don't select the same product twice, 3 times. You select it once, but change specify the quantity in the same order, right? Does that make sense? You choose like a specific bike and then say, I want like quantity 3. So in this case, if I look at this record and I see bike ID and reservation ID, do you agree that the combination of them, the combination of this and this is unique? The combination of reservation ID and bike ID is unique. Combination of them. So meaning that R201 plus 221 is unique in this table, meaning that I will not find another record in that table with the same reservation ID and with the same bike ID, right? If I find it's duplication with the same reservation ID and with the same bike ID. If I find it, it's a duplication, right? Because you're saying the same reservation and the same bike. So if that's the case, then you just add to the quantity. You don't add a new record to the table. Okay. The combination of these two is unique. In associative tables, because like we add these keys to these tables, usually we find a combination that is unique, and you can use that combination as the primary key of that table. Okay. Let's go back. What's the idea about the primary key? The idea about the primary key was a unique identifier that we can use to uniquely identify every record in a table. If we found a combination that if we use, we can actually uniquely identify every record in that table, that itself is a primary. Okay, so let's repeat that. If I use the reservation ID, either I will assign a unique number to every record in the table, or in this case, I will say reservation ID plus bike ID. Okay. This will always be unique. In the same order, the same bike, you're not going to do it twice. What you're doing, you're not going to record it twice. So in this table, you're not going to find two records with the same bike ID and the same reservation ID. If you find that, that's a duplication. That's why we can say, okay, the combination of them will always be unique. If that's the case, actually, we can use that as the primary key. Okay, as the primary key. We are looking for a unique identifier for each record, and that's the unique identifier. Let me give you another simpler example. How many times in this semester or in the same semester, how many times can you enroll in the same course? In the same course. You can only enroll once, right? In the same course. There is 261, 010 in the fall, right? There's only one. There's like the semester, okay, and the code. The code itself is not unique. It is offered in every semester. The semester is not unique, but the combination of them is unique, because with this code in the same semester, there's only one. That's what compound key means. Like you find a combination that creates a unique thing. Okay. You can find multiple version of like cases of this. I can teach this course in the same semester only once. So the teacher ID, if I have an ID, the teacher ID and course ID, the combination of them is unique, right? I can't teach the same course twice in the same semester, but I can teach the course in multiple semesters. Okay, so that's the case about like compound attributes. Look at you around you, and you will find so many examples of many-to-many relationships. When we build the databases, we're thinking about the things around us. Okay, things, teachers, departments, schools, students, courses, classes, sections, sessions. And then we look for the relationships, the links between them. Instructors teach multiple courses, and courses are taught by multiple instructors, right? So there is a many-to-many relationship between instructors and courses. If I was going to build a database for it, how would I solve this issue? I would need a third table and say course like item. Say instructor and then course ID. And that would create a unique identifier to say, okay, the combination of them is unique. And that's how I can see like who is teaching what course in which semester. The students and courses. You can take multiple courses and each course can be taken or registered by multiple students. That's why we have a many-to-many relationship between the students and the courses. So what we have is a registration, a third table that we record like a student and a course, and we call it like a registration table. And in that we record, okay, this is the semester, this is the course, this is the student, and then add another like features about the registration, the grade, other specifics. So that's the third table. So think about all these things because you're recording every info like about like surrounding stuff about us, like the events, the things and the events around the things. The event is the registration. So if that's the case, you can think of building a database for them and find the relationships between them. And that's how you can practice this. Okay, so just this shows you that primary key, foreign key, and composite key. Let's actually do that, okay, in a practice. This was the practice we worked on like initially, right? So we said we had customer, we said like order and then product. And we said like in every order, you can place only one product, okay? You can order only one product. So we had the customer, we had the product, and we said order ID, customer ID, product ID, quantity. But this is not correct because in generally in every case, you can order multiple products in the same order. So there is a many-to-many relationship between the products and the orders table. That is why we have to change this, the design of orders table, and we need a third table. So think about this. What changes do I need to make in the orders table, and what is my third table look like? Think about it for like a minute or two, and then you can talk about it. Again, 3 steps, 4 steps. Create a third table if you find a many-to-many relationship. Create a new table. Add foreign keys, or basically take the primary keys of the other tables and add that to the third table to create the link, and then choose a primary key. And that's how you like replace a many-to-many relationship with 2 one-to-many relationships. Take the steps we took here. The first thing we did, I said there was a direct link between these 2 tables, right? What did I do? I removed that link. How do I remove it? I said there was a byte ID here, which was the foreign key and was connecting byte to reservation. I removed it from this table, from the reservation table. So we see, okay, what should I do here in the orders table? Exactly. That's how you get rid of the link. Because between products and orders, there is a relationship. We added that relationship when we added the product ID here. So we took the first step. We removed that link. Now, what should we do? Create a third table. Okay. So here we have a third table, even if we don't know the name for now. We have a third table, place for third table. So what should we do now? Here, what did I do? I took the primary keys of each one of them and added them to the third table, right? Do the same thing here. Add the primary keys of 2 of them, each one of them, the order table and product table, and add it to the third table. Okay, so meaning that order ID and then product ID. Okay, these are our foreign keys. Okay, you're just exactly doing the same thing that we did here. This time, instead of the bytes, we have product. Okay, the product ID. So we are adding the product ID to the third table. Now, let's look at this and see what do we have. Order and product ID. What are these? What is this table recording? Items in the order, right? With every order, we have multiple linked to multiple products. So this is our order items. Now let's look back to the orders table and see if there is anything that needs to be moved, the other columns to the other table. Do we need to move any of these columns to the order item? Yes. Do you agree? Right? Quantity is not about the order, it's about the product. How many quantities of that product was chosen in that order? So it's a specifics or characteristics of item. It's not the order itself. Now we have that link. So now we have, okay, we have the order, we have the product, we have the order item. Last thing for the primary key. Every table has a primary key. So first option, common option, the one that we've had so far. I can add item ID and I specify it as a primary key, a new field that is used to uniquely identify every record in that table. That's a common one. But whenever we have an associated table, we have another option. What is that? We know, okay, if I didn't have this, we know the combination of order ID and product ID is going to be unique. I'm not going to have two records in that table with the same order ID and product ID. So actually, I can select both of them to be the primary key too. Don't worry about we have both of them as a primary key and find key. Individually, there are primary keys. I couldn't select both of them. Here, I should have showed the combination of them is going to be the primary key. And I will show you in database later when we work with Access how to specify that combination. But just remember the combination of these, not just one, but the combination of the order ID and product ID is the primary key of that table. And that's how we have a new design for this database. Customers, product, order, and order items. Now product is linked to order items, not the order itself. And how do we know that? Because we see the primary product ID here. Let's actually see that in an actual a recording of a order, because I think it helps to actually see how it happens. Okay, so let's say I'm recording an order. What is that order? I'm recording a new order for this customer. Okay, for this date, paid by card, and that's the product. Okay, I have the customer table, I have the product table. You see the records here. I have an order table and I have the order items table. Let's attempt to record an order. Okay, add an order. Click on that button to add an order. Okay, what do you see here? I see actually the order ID. Okay, why do I have it? I wanted to remind you that this is a unique identifier, right? We can memorize everything. So there will be a method that looks at the current records and then assigns a new value to new order. So we don't have two orders with the same ID. So it automatically assigns or some way to be assigned to a record in the order table. So it's already there. What am I adding? I'm adding the order date. I'm going to add the order date. I'm going to add the customer ID. Okay, I should have had this also the other way. That's fine. What is the customer ID? Customer ID is this one. Okay. Payment method is card. Okay. Total is empty because we haven't added the items yet. Okay, let's add the item. Now we need to add the item. See, before adding the item, I attempted to add the order, but it's not complete yet. Why? Because for an item to exist, an order has to exist. And how do you see that? You see that in the order ID that is like, it's like a select from the existing orders, from the existing order IDs. That tells you how actually the database works with the primary keys. Yes. Yeah, that's okay. It will record it, don't worry. Yeah. So, okay. So you see what is happening here? I wanted to show you this to know that like when like order ID already exists, when you attempt to record, like the system attempts to record the items in the order. And also a product already exists in the product table. You're you're choosing one of the product that already exists in the product table. Okay, so what is that product? This is the product. How many quantity? 1, 2, okay, and that's the price, if that's the exact price. And that's when you see that total, now it's updated and I can see it. Now it's recorded, everything is recorded. Okay, so you see that I should have had the same design for customer to remember. The customer has to already exist and you're going to choose one of the existing customers. Okay, you have a primary key, we are referencing it. Okay, if I want to add a new record, again, the same thing. And you see like the item, like again, it should be unique. It is automatically creating a unique one. The same way item ID. Okay, now I have 2 orders. Do you see that? From the existing orders. The order has like it already exists and we are referencing it using the primary key. There is only one order with that order ID in the order table. Okay, there is only one product with that ID in the product table. So you can have multiple items in the same order. So I want to just like indicate that, like, let's say I want to add another item, okay, and I can do that as well. I guess like it's not working, but that's enough. Just wanted you to kind of like view actually how those things happen in behind the scene. Any question? Okay, move on to the next one. Download the PDF file. Download the PDF file. The PDF version has the info that you've added to the file. If you save it, okay. But if you go back to that tab, it's like there's a bug here that we identified last session that like it kind of like removes this. So if you saw that, just add it to go and download the file. And then you will have your inputs in that file. Download that so like you can upload it for today's class. Okay. Class 101. Okay. Keep that for now. We only have about 10 minutes left, right? Okay. Let's do the other things and then we can like you can at the end of the session you can do like the uploading. So okay, from next session we are moving to Access. So let's open Access and just kind of like have an experience with it. So on Canvas you see a course technology. If you are a Windows user, if you have installed the Microsoft package, you probably have Access on your laptop. Okay, search for it. If you don't have it, you can download it if you're a Windows user. But there is no Access software for Mac users, so we have to use the virtual machine. Okay, so if you're a Mac user, you're gonna have to use like me, virtual machine. So click on this one, this link, and then go to like click on this link to go to virtual machine. Okay. And then click on this learn a desktop to go to virtual machine. this usually takes some time. So from next session, try to open this before class, let it kind of load up, takes its time. So like you're already ready to use it. I think with the Microsoft application software, you have to log in. So remember, you have to log in with your UD email address, and like so that you can you can use the like software. So here, let me see if it finally finishes up loading. It is super slow initially. Once it's kind of started and everything is fine, then you can use it. It's much faster. Okay, so you will see this like access here. Do you see that like a sign? If you don't see it, you should be able to search it here somewhere in the software to look for access. But you probably have it on desktop like me too. So double click on that to open the software. Okay. If you need to log in with your UD email address. I can give you like 1 or 2 minutes to log in. Ready? Yes. Okay, good. So here you will see like that blank database. So click on that so we can create a new database. You can choose a name for your database. I'll just leave it there. Choose a name for it if you want, then create. Okay, if you see this, make sure to close this like the table open. So close it so it doesn't anytime you go there and if you see that initially, just close it. Okay. So it starts fresh. Okay, so we have a few tabs here. One is create. We will use that like if you want to create a query design, which mostly we will do, or like create a table. For every database, it starts from creating the tables, adding the tables to the database, and then adding the relationships. Then it's starting to like add the record and then use that database for like data management, getting the data, updating, like you know, any sorts of like data manipulation or management. But it starts from creating tables. Um, so in the next few sessions, usually I will already like prepare and give you a starter file. The starter file will have the tables and the data. What we will do is like only open access and then create like basically we'll tell you create the database design, add the relationships, and then move on from it. But let's practice this like from the beginning once or twice. Create a table. So click on this table design. Okay, that's how we create tables in a database. we want to like add a customer table here. So what are the fields of that table? From the practice we saw, like we had a customer ID. Okay, customer ID. Every field, every attribute of a table or data entity, or every field of a column should have its own like a data type. Sometimes we just use like in most cases we use short type. Sometimes some fields have unique data types, like a date, it's a date. If it's a money, it's a currency. So from here you can see different data types. So for now, we just use a short text. Then I will add customer name. Okay, I'll just leave it as short text, and then also like address. Short text. Okay. That's enough. We are going to add other fields to it. But so once you added the fields to the table, the next thing is adding, like specifying the primary key of that table, specifying the primary key. So you see that table design here? You see the table design? If you go to table design tab, okay, so there are two ways you can assign like a column as a primary key. Either you click right on like select a row, okay, select a row, click right, and then click on primary key, okay, select the row, click right, and then choose it as primary key. That's one option. Or the other option is just click on the field itself and then choose, like click on this primary key button here. Okay, do you see that primary key button? I can click on that button and like it like there is a key shows up just on the side of that field, and that indicates that's the primary key of that table. Okay, that's how you like add the like create a table, add the attributes or like fields of that table, and then assign a primary key and then save it. Okay, click right on the table itself and click on save. So here at the top, click right, just like here at the top. Click save, and here you specify the name of that table. So this one is the customers table. Okay, customers. Just choose type customers and then okay. And that's it. Like you see, the table is, you can close it and the table is recorded. If you want to see the table, I can click right on the table and click on design. Let me see design view. Okay, so the design view will take you to the part that you can like change the fields again or like add new fields. You can also click right and open to see the table itself. If you have added data to the table, this is how you will see each record in that table. Okay, good. Okay, so this is good for today. I wanted to kind of like make sure that we touch this session, and then next session we start like actually using it for query. Two things. First, make sure to upload that file. Second, take the attendance. Okay, do that, and then that should be it for today. Later you can see the assignment as well. Okay, let me give you the key. Once you uploaded that file, use the key to take the attendance. If you have any questions from here, let me know. Otherwise. If you try to log in and like you thought like that like you're putting the password is correct, email correct, but it still doesn't allow you, try to update the password. Sometimes there's some issue with it, but like just attempt to update the password, change your password, and it should work. And if you face that, just keep that in mind. Don't forget to take the attendance.